the more experienced athlete, say, okay, your knee's not getting to this position, which is limiting how much force you can apply to the track when you retract your leg.
Yeah.
What kind of cues do you think we can use, whether they're, and typically it's external, or what type of exercises do you think are going to give you the feedback that you need? You know, so it might be something like you take someone out of an acceleration to a bound type task, and they know why you're doing it, but you're trying to give them that feeling of creating much more retraction and force application. And you might do that over hurdles or cones, or you might ask them to do a certain thing so that they can then create that map of, all right, how am I going to navigate this problem?
Yes.
That obviously takes a lot of experience on your part and a lot of experience on the individual's part, but bringing them into that process, if they have the understanding, I think is something that it's fun to do, and it's actually probably more enjoyable for them and for you. It really does bring that idea of autonomy for them from a motivational standpoint. But also, I think it's the thing that happens and demonstrates to me that internal cues are not useless.
No, and there's a few things I was going to see your opinion on, because my assumption would be with internal cueing too is in the training or learning environment, it can be a valuable thing in certain contexts, in certain circumstances. But because of the issue with internal cueing, where you'll typically create a lot of co-contraction of not just the agonist but antagonist, which is probably one of the big reasons why you get a reduction in the actual force output, you want to only limit it to that constrained environment. When you're actually in, say, more a competitive or open environment, such focus on cues may actually compromise your performance.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But
I was going to ask you though too, particularly in, say, sprinting, where because you don't actually have so many external uncontrolled variables like an opponent, do you get athletes, or do athletes in general focus a lot on still external cueing for execution? Or do you think when it comes to competition, it's like all the preparation that you've done before it leads to the point where when it comes to race, you just go?
No, I think you can actually do those things. And it's funny because if you talk to really experienced coaches and particularly really experienced athletes, they'll tell you that they have the ability to think a lot during even very short races like the 100 meters.
Yeah.
And I think the better ones have a lot of clarity about what's going on. And you and I have discussed this before, but I think really good athletes, it's generally one of the skills that they have that puts them on a genius level in that domain. I remember we've spoken this conversation. I think I showed you, there's an interview with LeBron James where someone asked him oh, what happened at this point? And he literally play by play said, I passed the ball to this guy and then he gave me this. And then I knew that he was running there and I did this. And then, and it was in the fourth minute of the game.
Yeah.
And this is in the press conference. And to think that his recollection of that was so clear shows you the level of perception that someone like he has. And it's no surprise that he's been not only one of the best players of this whole era, but also for a really long time.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing happens in sprints. And obviously in distance running, you've got plenty of time to think. But in sprints, the same thing happens. It's time slows down. So you actually have the opportunity. And you might use external cues. So for instance, in the acceleration, it can be as simple as all I'm thinking is push.
Yeah.
Just push.
Yeah.
Right? You're not thinking, oh, my arm goes here.
Yeah.
Oh, my ankle
Is my
needs to do
glutes
this.
working?
Exactly. You're thinking, I've just got to push. And then once you're up, it might be something else. It might be bounce or pop or, you were trying to sort of punch the air with your arm, whatever it is that works for that individual.
Yeah.
You're creating those kinds